Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Motor Trade Mentors podcast with David Gott, the lovely car company, myself, Joe Betty of Barrow Motors. And today our guest is Nick Payne, who is the owner of Pride and Performance. He's got himself a car dealership. He's selling some really nice looking stuff. He is facing some challenges. We always ask for 3 challenges that our guests are facing. And the one that Nick has given us, which is going to make for an interesting podcast, I think. Nick's business partner / friend that had the money to get him started, pulled the money and the cars out of the business while he was away on holiday 3 months after starting, and he had to figure out how the hell he was going to basically figure all this out. But he didn't really have much option because he personal guaranteed the lease, an auto trader, etc. So kind of had no option but to carry on and find a way, which sometimes leads to the best results. Problem number 2, being too nice in the car trade. I'm sure we're all guilty of it. People taking the mick and literally replacing tyres for people because he felt bad. Comes on to the whole over prepping against, like we've discussed before. And number 3, wearing all the hats in the business. He's had useless valeters, greedy salesmen, and now he's just on his own, running around about 20 cars and struggling to fill all the gaps in the business. So we should have plenty to talk about. Welcome on, Nick. Probably the best thing to do is, in your own words, tell us about yourself and how Pride and Performance came about, and then we'll get into all your challenges.
All right, no worries. Brand Performance kind of started best part of 20 years ago, but as a detailing company, not as a car sales company. So I ran that for, say, best part of 20 years. Had a little girl nearly 4 years ago now, and I wanted more. This sounds mad when I say this to car dealers, but I wanted more work-life balance. So everyone was like, "Why did you choose car sales then? Because that's crazy." But it is actually working out better than detailing. The problem I had with detailing was if I wasn't physically connected to a car, I wasn't earning any money. Whereas obviously, at least with this job, as long as you've got your adverts up and things like that, people can still see them while you're at the park or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So I sold the detailing company, got a job I got offered 2 jobs. I got one at a company called V12 Sports and Classics, which sells no V12s, no sports, no classics. It's basically Arnold Clark, but under a different name, basically. But I absolutely loved it, to be honest. I was only there a few weeks. I had 2 interviews on the same day. I had one there and one at BMW. So I had my heart set on BMW. I've always been a BMW fan, so I've always had BMs myself and stuff. So that was where I wanted to go. I started at V12 because they wanted me to start the same day as my interview, basically, which should have told me it was a bit like Arnold Clark rather than a big dealership. Started there, did a few weeks, then BMW rang me and offered me the job. Told my manager I was leaving. They offered me quite a substantial pay rise and wanted me to stay because they'd obviously seen I wasn't just there for the money. I was there running around trying to better myself and grab the other lads to do stuff. But ultimately, I went to BMW and absolutely hated it. To be honest, it was what my manager at V12 told me it'd be. I'd just be a number. It'd just be a big corporate thing, and it just wasn't for me. It was you couldn't do anything sort of thing. You had to everything had to be emailed and okayed and like on my first day, I had a meeting with my manager, walked back to my desk, and by the time I got to my desk, I'd had an email off him to tell me something he could have told me 10 seconds ago. And I was like, that's a strange, I'm not used to that culture. I'm used to opening my office door and shouting at the lads if I need something doing, like when I had the detailing company. And then one of my friends said, why don't you sell cars for yourself? To which I was like, well, you need money to do that. And I don't have that type of money. I also don't want, at the time, I didn't want a business again. I wanted a bit of, start at 9, finish at 5, go home and forget about it. I didn't want a 24/7 sort of thing. That's all I've ever done since I left school was be self-employed. So I wanted a bit of a break, really. We had a chat, decided he was going to put the money in, I was going to put the time in. We were going to start car sales. I still had the premises because when I sold the detailing business, I had about 6 months left on the lease. So I was still paying for premises anyway, which I've ended up keeping on. So, got in touch with the landlord and said, can I keep it? And he was like, yeah, of course you can, no problem. So at least that was one hurdle that was, I know can be a bit of an issue trying to find premises. At least I had it. So that was all right. He put a lot of money in the bank, quite a substantial amount of money, to be honest. It was about 300 grand he had tied up to start up. We tried starting with like M cars and, C63s and that sort of stuff, which soon led to big headaches. So we couldn't be doing that. So I think he was expecting to make a fortune straight away, straight off the bat. And obviously it takes time to build these things and do things. So the way I did things and the way he did things were just different. And the way we'd done it, because we couldn't decide, on a name and the way we were going to structure it and stuff like that. To start off with, we just thought, well, Pride and Performance is already a registered business. It's already got obviously it's already got accounts and an accountant and a premises and trade insurance as well, because I obviously had that for the detailing. So I was like, well, let's just run with the Pride and Performance name for the beginning, which in the long term has worked out well, because it meant everything was already in my name and it's still in my name. But it also meant it was really easy for him just to go, I'm out and disappear, basically. So yeah, so I went away on it was my 10-year wedding anniversary. So this was obviously booked a long time before the business was even thought of. A couple of days into it, I sort of looking at my bank account and I'm noticing that there's money getting pulled out. I'm looking on the cameras at work and noticing cars are disappearing. I'd obviously had a text off the guy saying, it's not for me, this, I can't do it, it's not working, I'm out, basically. So I didn't speak to my wife for about 3 days. And then eventually she sat me down and was like, what's happening? And I said, well, basically, we're kind of screwed. It was the easiest way. So her being the way that she is and always sees the best way out of things, she was like, well, forget about it. Let's have a good holiday and we'll think about it when we get home. Like, there's no point stressing it and ruining a good holiday. So that was what we did.
Did you really manage to do that? Did you really manage to still enjoy it?
To a degree. I mean, I'm useless at enjoying holidays anyway, because I'm always stressing about what's happening back at the business, and I never enjoy a holiday, as bad as that sounds. Anyway, so it was.
I'm exactly the same. Exactly the same. That's curious. And I know something like that would just stop it dead in my tracks. I'd be like, no more holiday for me. I need to figure out. My head would be a million miles away than the lovely beach wherever I was.
Well, we were on a cruise, so I couldn't even escape. I was stuck in the middle of the sea, so there was nowhere for me to go.
Not ideal.
No.
So, where did you go from there then?
So I got back and was like, I had one of my other friends around for tea, and I went to the shop to get some beers. He said to me, just sort of in passing while we were getting some drinks, he was like, "Oh, so how's business? How is it with the other guy? This, that, the other." And I said, "Oh, well, this has happened." And he was like, "Oh, well, you're quite calm for someone who's who might be going bankrupt any minute now." And I was like, "Well, what else can I do? It's got to crack on, Anna." He told his missus what was happening, and his missus turned around and went, "Well, is there nothing we can do?" So he ended up lending me some money. He did it on like a stocking loan sort of idea, if that makes sense. He gave me 30 grand and said, "Give me £1,000 a month and you can do what you want with that 30 grand, basically," which isn't the best interest rate in the world, but it was fair play to him. He saw a business opportunity and he helped me out at the same time. So it was, my missus was a bit mad at the fact he was making so much money off us for not really doing anything apart from lending us money that he had lying around anyway. And I was like, well, he's a businessman. It is what it is, and it's a business expense for us to sort out. But it got us going, so I can't complain.
No, and it's a big risk, I guess, isn't it? Handing over that sort of money.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And Nick, have you given that money back now?
Yeah, I've paid that back now. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. What ended up happening was I borrowed 30 off him, and the original guy that I was in with, he left 30 in as well. So I used that to get going. Both of them are now paid off, but that's obviously given me enough books and accounts and knowledge that I've now got stocking in place.
Fair enough. And that sort of brings you up pretty much to where you are now then, does it?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And Nick, what when did this all happen? What year was it that you lent the money and stuff? How quick have you brought it back round?
22.
It's amazing, though.
Yeah, 2022. Yeah. I mean, I've got a bit of, I'm in a bit of personal debt myself now, but at least I've managed to borrow it and it's on me rather than on them. So like I said, I borrowed 60 and I think I'm about 45, but that's just on a loan that I'm just paying off every month, and obviously in a year, about 3 years, I think it'll be cleared.
Yeah, well, it'll be a lot better rate as well. So.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, a lot better. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm thinking here, Joe? At the minute is, if Nick is happy to pay £1,000 a month for 30 grand, once he gets a stocking loan, he's not going to be bothered about lending like $250,000, 500 grand, because the rate it's not going to be that much more than you're paying an extortionate amount of interest.
Percentage-wise, it's going to be nowhere near that.
Yeah, I've got 150 on stocking.
Tell you what we should do is, before we sort of talk about we could have a quick look at what Nick's got, because he's got some like impressive looking stuff. And when we have a look at it, then we talk about how it's.
There's not much advertised at the moment, because we had a crazy week a week or two ago. So
That's good. How many you normally? Oh, so you normally stock about 20, you said, aren't you?
yeah. I think I've currently got 24 in stock, and like that said, I think I've only got 11 advertised at the moment. But I've got 3 cars sitting in the workshop with no wheels on. That are obviously away getting refurbed. 1 in the body shop, 3 in the garage. So yeah, I've got them all over the place at the moment.
How long have you had this Porsche 911?
It's on SOR. It's not mine.
Okay.
It's only been advertised a couple of weeks now. The
Fair.
first 2, the Range Rover and the Porsche, are a friend of mine's that are on SOR.
Fair enough. I'll let you off. I was about to dig into why you would have bought that sort of stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's SOR. That. So.
Website looks great, doesn't it, Joe?
Yeah. What are you on? You're on 67 degrees, which is the same as me.
Yeah.
So you on, and you got Octane on here. So you on a sort of like, what is it, about 340 quid a month, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Well, no, I think mine's 260. I think.
Maybe it's. Yeah, I can't remember exactly how it works.
But yeah, I think it goes off the amount of cars you've got, doesn't it? So obviously you'll have more cars.
Have you got a finance calculator on here or not?
Yeah.
You have. Okay, yeah, with Octane, yeah. No, all looks good, and the sort of dark scheme and everything all works with whatever. Before we get into talking about that, do you know what I just want to ask you? We were saying earlier, you applied to work at V12 Sports and Classics and BMW. I take it you had no sales experience whatsoever, because I remember when I was younger, I've always had this idea of doing car sales, and I thought working for car sales for like a dealer or a car supermarket or something would be a good way to earn money, and it is if you're good at it, I think. I was like, I've got no experience, I've got nothing sales related whatsoever, but I still felt like I could do it. Now, I never actually applied because I thought I'd just get laughed out the door, but I take it you didn't have any experience or anything in sales per se.
Yeah, I did work at Arnold Clark for a little bit before I set up a business back when I was probably 19, 20-ish.
But did you have any experience before that, before you got like a sales job?
No.
No.
That was it. No.
I think if you want to be it's interesting, isn't it? If you want to be a car dealer or one day you want to sell your own cars or whatever, it can't be a bad shout to get a sales job like that. It's probably going to teach you all the stuff you don't want to do, and like you say, all the targets and all that rubbish. But and then the bureaucracy amongst all the staff and the whatever. But
yeah, I mean, if you see sort of my reviews on Google and stuff, everyone says I don't sell cars, and I try not to sell cars. I basically just make friends with people and have a chat. If they want to buy a car, they'll buy it. I don't try and sell them it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Which I think is what I would have hated about doing a sales job, because you've been pushed to. I do think if you're interested, I think a lot of people who are listening, who are thinking about car sales or whatever, or getting into before they make a big investment, or set up on a partnership that could be, troublesome, it might pay to dip your foot in and get a job doing sales at one of these places and see whether just dealing with the public and the cars and whatever would work for you, because it seems like most places are probably crying out people who've got a bit of gumption and want to sell, and obviously that's why you did well, because you've got that kind of driven entrepreneurial streak. You must have to be where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, at V12 it was stuff like when there wasn't a customer, obviously all the other salesmen would be sitting at the desk just waiting for a deal to land on the lap, sort of thing. I'd be out the front lining cars up, picking fag ends up off the floor and cleaning, and they were like, "What's he doing?" I was like, "Well, if the place doesn't look good, why are people going to come here? Like, have a bit of pride in the place." I think that's the difference between working for yourself and being staff, isn't it? I was still thinking, well, I know it's not my business, but I can see it from the outside looking in, kind of thing. I think you want it to look good. You want to take pride in the place.
I always think back to my first ever job, which was like opening boxes at a wholesale electrical place. But I started off, like I say, minimum wage, opening boxes, putting the stock on the shelf and doing all that sort of stuff. I think I had a pay rise of a couple of grand in the first 6 weeks or something. It's like, you're brilliant. If you're not doing something and you haven't got a job, I would always go and ask them, like, right, I've done that, what do you want next? But they're like, if someone's on the phone or whatever, you'll pick up the brush and you'll start sweeping the floor. You've just got the right attitude, rather than sort of standing around and being on your phone and, having a cup of tea or just wandering around aimlessly, which a lot of people will do. I can't express how important that kind of attitude and mindset is, because I'll pick up on it and people as well. They picked up on it. By the time I left, they wanted me to have my own branch, just because, and I had no special skills. I got no special skills now. But if you're just going to show that you're just going to crack on, you're 20 steps ahead of everyone else.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a rant for yeah, you got your stock in and whatever at the minute, and how many are sort of selling on average?
Tend to do about 12 a month, sort of average.
Brilliant.
It must be reasonably okay then, I would have thought. If it's mainly just you, are you sort of making a reasonable amount at the minute? Are you doing your accounts and kind of knowing what you're making? And
Yeah, not much, which is the weird thing. I don't understand where I'm going wrong, really. Overheads is what's killing me. My overheads are massive with obviously me unit and the auto trader bill, insurance, all that sort of stuff. But what I can see is if I was to do an extra 2 cars a month, for instance, my overheads would be the same, but I'd suddenly make a lot more money. So at 12, I'm sort of cover overheads and take a small wage, but I'm not really making a fortune. Whereas, like I say, if I did 14, 15, I'd start making decent money. So
it is a bit of, you're always chasing that little extra that makes the profit. I don't know if you feel the same, Dave.
Mate, every month. The problem with our job is, we start from zero every month. So I don't know about you, Joe, but when it gets to like the 25th of the month, sometimes I look at the board and we're only on 20 sales. And I'm like, bloody hell, we're just going to wipe our nose this month. We're just going to break even. But then last like 4 or 5 days are so important. And then you can have a little, this month's just gone. I think we've done 6 in the last week. So now we've made money. So it's great. That's the problem with this job. You don't know if you're going to do 21 month or you're going to do 30. So totally sympathise where you're coming from, Nick.
yeah, it's the feast or famine as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like last month, I was on the 16th of the month, I think it was. I was on 2 for the month, and I was like, "Geez, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go. Like, I'm gonna have to get a job again at this rate." And then by the end of the month, so between probably the 20th and the end of the month, I did another 10. So I ended on 12, 10 of them in the last week, which is why the website's a bit dry at the moment, because I literally sold nearly everything I owned in the last week of last month.
Yeah, it can be a bit like that. It works the other way as well, doesn't it? You start off the week, in the first couple of days you've done 10, you're like, oh my God, we're going to fly this month, and then just goes dead quiet.
Yeah, so you start having to ring yourself, make sure your phones are turned on.
Yeah. The problem is, like we say, the sales, it ebbs and flows. It's the overheads, isn't it? The overheads are fixed. They always stay the same.
I think, Joe, what I learned, doing it on your own, you either need like really, really low overheads. I think if you've got like 15, 20 cars, just the people that I know that do it, like Nick from Lovely Cars, my friend Chris Ball, their overheads with rent is they try and keep it to a minimum. So I don't know about you, Nick, like what, if you don't mind me asking, what's your overheads for your rent? Is it?
Rent's about £2,000.
See, there you go. Straight away, you're up against it. So now you need to up your volume. It's as simple as that. And you've got to get a bit more help. And I've suffered with this myself, with like thinking, oh, I can do everything myself. But if you've seen our YouTube channel, we've just took on Ali. He's been here for like 2 months. And I thought, oh God, I can't afford this. It's going to be an absolute fortune. But since he's come on, everything's moving more efficient. We're selling more cars. We're buying more cars. The wheels are turning quicker. And I think what you're doing is you sort of, just my opinion, is like you're just going to keep pissing in the wind, So I think maybe you need to get a little bit more help, bit more part-time help maybe. That might help you. Because obviously you can sell cars. You're really good at selling it. You're really good at presenting them. You're buying the right stock. If I were you, if you can get any more space, just try and get an extra 10 cars.
I've got a car park across the road that I rent. Obviously, all my cars. So look, I can keep 12 to 14 depending on what size they are inside here. And then I've got a car park across the road where I rent sort of another. Technically, it's 6 spaces, but they've said it's take as many as you need. It's not the end of the world. So I can have more cars. It's just some of them will obviously have to live outside, which is normal for most dealerships anyway. So
Do you ever sort of stop and, I don't know if you ever do this, Dave, I'm sure you probably do, because I know you're quite pragmatic like this. Do you ever sort of stop and like, right, I'm going to take a couple hours today, and I'm going to figure out how much money have I got to spend? How many cars can I have? How many am I selling? What's my margins on the cars that I'm buying at the moment? And then sort of think, what am I roughly making out of this at the end of the month? Let's say it's a couple of grand each month, and I got all that. I mean, this is what I'll do pretty much every Sunday. I sit down and I'm like, what am I putting my time into? Because the one day I get to relax, it should be my day to be off, but I'll go and sit in my other office down the farm, and I'll sit down and I'll think, right, what am I going to put my time into this week? Sometimes it'll flip and change depending on what the market's like. But I mean, looking at your stock, for example, you've got some lovely stuff, and you've got 100 grand, 150 grand worth of stocking, and, you know, whatever else you've got invested in yourself. I'm guilty of just being like, I love that sort of stuff. That's great. That's whatever. But then I'll sit down on a Sunday and be objective and be like, I've got 200 grand to play with, and I want to have 20 cars in stock. That means I need 5 in prep at all times as well, ideally 10. So my 200 grand is now whatever the calculation for that is, you know, like 10 grand each or something. And I've got cars here that are 26, 20, 18, whatever. And like, if I really, I mean, I love having that sort of stuff, and that's the stuff I want to be selling. But I mean, I'm lucky because I don't really need to make profit out of this business in a stupid sense, because I got my plumbing business, I got other things, and this is what I'm guilty of, is treating it like a lifestyle type business. I'm trying to change that. If I want to get to the point where I'm selling 26 grand cars, it's ideally my own money, and I'm making good margins out of them. Right now, I need to be really objective and be like, I can only spend a maximum of 10 grand on each car, and I need whatever the margin is that I decide that I need. I think that's the only way you can go about it. So if you want to expand, which obviously you will do, I guess it's picking the right stuff then, and then get someone in to help with all the tasks that you don't want to do, but also picking someone who's very good. I think one of the lessons I've learned is hire the right people. Who is it? Rory, who we had on, who's obviously been like wildly, disgustingly successful with car sales, says hire slow and fire fast, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of, like, someone comes in there in front of me, they seem all right, I'm like, yep, great, you're on board. And then you live with the consequences for the next 6 months while you're like, whatever it is.
Yeah, had that.
That's why I asked, are you making this sort of money? Because I don't want to be like, you should be doing this. You know, it's your business, you should do what you want, 100%, and you have to enjoy it. But if it's a case of like, well, I'm not really making enough money, there's only one way to do it, which is to like water it down a little bit and try and have more opportunities to sell, more margins. Because what sort of margin are you aiming to get? You have to tell us what margins you are getting or whatever. But what's, you know, what you aiming to get when you're buying a car?
Well, I try and buy them with about 2.5 in them, so allowing, you know, 500 prep, and then leaving with 2. That's what I try. It doesn't always work, obviously. 9 times out of 10, there's usually 1,500 quid left in a car by the end of it, or as an average. So I think we tend to average sort of 12 to 1,500 a unit by the end of the month.
Do you know what, Joe? Like, I've sort of worked out in my head. We're all on the same sort of margins, aren't we? We all hope that we're going to get 2 or 3 grand out of a car, and you might do 1 or 2. You might do 1 a month. You know what I mean? And that, have you heard of that 80-20 parasite? Oh God, I can't remember what it's called. It's a book. It's called the 80-20 rule. So like, I think 80% of your cars you'll make like, you know, a grand over a year. You'll have 20% of cars where you might make like 2 or 3 grand, and that's what's going to help your bottom line. You know what I mean? So what I'm trying to like, I know I always keep going on about volume and stuff like that, but if you, with your overheads, if you are just selling 10, 12 cars, you're only ever going to make a wage. That's all you're going to make. So for me, my system is I have my spreadsheet, and I have my net profit column. And at the end of every month, like say we sell 20 to 25, and it's always around 25 grand net profit. And then we've got like about 15 grand worth of overheads, 20 grand. So, you know, you can work out what I'm making, just being honest with you. So I know now going forward, I need to be selling more cars. And the only way I can sell more cars, which is really hard for us as independent dealers, is to employ more people. So for you, I think you've either got to like cut your overheads with your rent and find somewhere cheaper. Or, and I've just said it before, I'm sorry repeating myself, you've got to get more cars. And the thing is, you know what you're doing as well. So you know you can sell 20, 25 cars a month easy.
Like I said, to get more cars, I'd have to take on someone full time because it's I'm already running around like a lunatic with just like stopping the amount I am doing. So yeah, it would. But the weird thing is, this is the longest period where I've not had full time staff. I've not had full time staff now for about 3 months. Like I've kind of just touched on, I'm actually making less money even though I've got no staff. And I thought, oh, I'll just work harder for a few months with no staff, and I'll be able to take 2 wages. But it doesn't. It's not working that way. So I think staff is going to have to be on the cards.
You end up digging yourself into a hole, and you're like, no, I just keep working harder and harder until you get to the point where you're completely burnt out.
Yeah.
You can't be asked for the job anymore, and you should have had someone helping you out. But yeah, with everything, profit's made when you buy it, and Dave and I might be lucky that we'll get offered stuff from subscribers and it might have an opportunity to have a bit more money in it, or I'll buy really risky stuff at auction and have a bit more money in it. But then again, it's more risky, so it doesn't always. There's some stupid figure like 19,000 people selling cars, like, like car traders in the UK. And the reason you can't make much more than probably a couple of grand out of a decent non-headache car is because there's 19,000 people who want it and they want to sell it as well. We are our own competition.
Yeah.
So
it infuriates me that we're sort of governed at what price we can buy the car at by, like, say, competition and what the online, a lot of the online portals say, like Auto Trader or We Buy Any Car, whatever. That's where people are saying, well, I want this much for my car. But then you also are governed at what price you can sell it at, again, by people like Auto Trader and stuff. So you're kind of told what margins you can make before you even start with a car in a roundabout way.
yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm thinking it's tricky, because you can't just, it's easy to say, I've got 20 cars. If I've got 30 cars and I employ someone, I'll make more money because that person's wages will be covered by 2 cars worth of extra sales, and we'll sell another 8 on top of that. But then you need to start hammering down like the process of all your cars to make sure that they're like prepped right and whatever. And I mean, I'm guilty of not doing it as well. Not that I'm not prepping them, but like we were talking to Mike Brewer the other day, and we're saying about like prepping the cars in advance so they're 100% ready to go before they even get like a camera pointed at them and get listed. 100%. Theoretically, it makes sense, but we're all just like, oh, we need to get the money in. Let's generate some interest. Let's get the cars online and whatever. And that ruins any system that you might have. So it's bloody. The longer I'm in this job, the longer I'm realizing that a lot of us get into it because we see that margin on one car and we're like, this is a great way to make money. And I know I can do this at scale. The longer you do it, the more you realize the overheads eat into it. And it's not an easy job. It's absolutely not an easy job. Certainly not an easy way to make a lot of money. The people who've like built car supermarkets and whatever, the stress they must have gone through, how capable they must be, it amazes me, because I'm not lazy, I'm not an idiot, but it's still bloody hard.
The ones that have been successful are the ones who have got processes. They've got processes in place, and they're not just buying stuff and thinking, oh, there's 2 grand in this. It's the people, like, I don't look at margins. Like, obviously, I do look at margins, but if we make 3 grand on a car, I don't get excited about it anymore, because I think we've got to sell X amount of cars with X amount of profit until the end of the month. Then I might get a little bit excited. But at the same time, you've got to look at it, what you make in a year, not a month. Maybe go quarterly. I think like that podcast with Mike Brewer the other day, and what Joe's just touched on. And I think there's something in the universe as well. When you've put the new tyres on the car, when you've valeted it, when you've MOT'd it, just seem to sell a lot quicker than if you just, like James said the other day, throw a bucket of water over it, get it advertised. There's something in the universe that you sell a car quicker if it's all fully prepped. And the thing is, you won't be able to do that if you're doing it all on your own. That is the problem.
I try, and I've been like everyone is, but because of me coming from the detailing background as well, I'm really like guilty of over prepping stuff. Like all the wheels will be done, they'll be machine polished, they'll be like as close to being a new car as sort of possible, kind of thing. I have scaled that back a lot over the last sort of couple of months and realised most people don't look at a car that close and they're not that bothered as long as it's reasonable. But I do try and get them before I'll photograph them and advertise them, I'll try and I do try and make sure they're completely prepped. So if someone walks in today, they can take the car away today as well. They don't have to wait for it to be MOT'd or anything like that. But like I said, the more cars you get, the harder it is to do that.
Well, yeah, I had no doubts that prepping was like or prepping in advance was necessarily going to be a problem for you. I guess what I was thinking is that if you were to say take what you've got and currently your average stock value price is about 20,000, to bring that down to 15,000 so that you can spread your money across 30 cars rather than 20. Prep obviously gets harder. That's why we all want to sell nicer, newer cars, because they're generally speaking less headaches, aren't they? That's where we should all probably really be aiming to get to. In an ideal world, we'd all love to sell like 6 months to 1 year old cars that are still under 2 years worth of manufacturer's warranty, and they've got a decent margin in. That would be like the dream, wouldn't it? They'd need
I've
bugger all
tried a few of
work.
them. You can never sell them though, because
No.
you're against main dealers at that rate. So yeah,
You're against main dealers and you're against car supermarkets who are selling them at their cost price, so they can upsell you up the arse with 101 different options, which is where they make their money. So yeah, it's tricky. And that's what I'm saying. In a dream world, that's what we do, isn't it? That's what everyone says. You should. I get it on YouTube all the time. You should just sell some 1 year old cars. They still have warranty and whatever. And it's like, yeah, but try actually selling them.
it just doesn't work.
Possible.
So it's tricky, isn't it? The lower down the market you come, the easier they will sell, 100%. But also the risk of the problems goes high, which is why I think you would have like you'd have to have a bit of a mentality shift from prepping like me and Dave. We're selling nice cars, but we need to like prep them in advance so that the system flows quicker. But you'd have to be prepping them in advance to ensure that, you minimize your headaches. For a small team of say 2 people, you still don't want to be putting 35 grand cars out the door. Not saying you would, but 10 grand cars out the door and having 15 warranty claims every month. It really is. What's really, everyone gets into cars because they're selling cars because they love cars. They want to sell nice stuff like I wanted to sell nice stuff like you sell, Nick. That's what we'd all love to, like, stuff that we get excited about and whatever. But the longer I'm in it, the longer I realize that if you want to make money, if you actually want to make money rather than just do this for a lifestyle, it's really the boring stuff you have to hammer down. Get your overheads down, get your system better so it's smoother, quicker, whatever. Manage the problems, manage your like after sales service and stuff like that. Get your costs for say like warranty and all that sort of stuff down. It's really like all the boring nibbling away at all that sort of stuff that is where the money is made. So it's a bit of a boring, depressing thing to say, really, because
I know you're right. 'Cause I've tried it as well. Like it's probably 6-12 months ago. I remember saying to my finance rep when he came in, he was like, "Oh, how are you doing?" Blah blah blah. And at that point, I was probably doing the best I've done in a long time. But I said to him, the problem is, I'm coming into work in the morning, nothing's turning me on, because I had a showroom full of Clios and Captures and Corsas, and I was like, but looking back at it now, that's when I was doing the best, even though it was boring cars. So yeah, but like I say, I've got a bit guilty recently of buying stuff that I like rather than will sell. So I do need to get back in the phase of buying the boring stuff.
It's getting the balance right, because I'm with Nick at 100%. This time last year, I was selling cars that I did not like Vauxhall Mockers, same Captures. I don't even want to look at a Capture again in my life. The most boring car in the world, And I'm not a car guy as well. I'm not a car guy, but you need to be selling stuff that makes your bum hum. You need to. So in a way, I don't go back to selling the Captures, please. Still sell the stuff that you like, but just I don't know. I think you're doing everything right, Nick. Your website looks good. You've sold loads of cars last month. I think you just need to, and you're not scared about lending money. I think you should just maybe lend a bit more money, get a little bit more stock, and sell the stuff that you like.
I would temper that with I think if we tell you to stock the stuff that you like, Nick, it would all be God knows what. I mean, like, let's have a look again. So we got obviously
these
these
unit full of 911s and M3s.
No, exactly. But C63s, the W208, like, they might have a really good margin in that and whatever. But then, I mean, I've had a few of them because I'm guilty and I love them. They're the best sounding car in the world, but not necessarily quick movers. You'll probably tell me you've sold it now, but
Well, that one I've sold it 3 times and bought it back 3 times, but not through faults, through people who've bought it, had it for 6 to 12 months and gone, it's too loud, it drinks too much fuel, this, that, the other. So I first sold that car, I think, in 2022 for about 33 grand, and then it's got about another 4 owners on it since then, and it's come and gone. So yeah, people could drive it for 6 months and go, oh, it's too much for me, because that one's, it's got straight pipes on it and all sorts. It is a bit of a mental car.
I mean, I'd be looking to buy, maybe not that generation, but the newer generation. But let's say, like, I mean, this would looks right on Dave's forecourt. Say it was the newer generation, which I don't know what the model code is, but it was the 2.1 diesel, but it had the black wheels and the bits on and whatever that kind of stands out. It's, you know, it looks nicer. I would be like figuring out my numbers, figuring out how much I can spend, like how many cars I want to have in stock or floating around me to kind of maximize my sales. The nicest, most interesting car that you have some kind of interest in for that sort of value. Because I mean, when I go to auction, or wherever I buy from, I mean, if someone offers me a car, I'll buy whatever. But if I'm going to auction, even if I'm gonna get like a Mondeo, it's got to be the Titanium X. If I'm gonna get, I don't know what all the other models are, but you
If you're buying
know,
a 3 Series, it's got to be an M Sport, not an SE.
Yeah.
Like,
That's it. Simple.
exactly. To just try and pick the most interesting, nice cars that you can that have still got a nice margin in them. And the beauty is you can build up. My current sort of theory is that I want to have a forecourt of, I mean, we could probably get 35, 40 cars in maybe, but what I want is 30 cars that are like 20 grand plus, 25 grand, all of them. Currently, our lowest price would be like 5 grand. But what I'm aiming for is to have, I get people like rolling in all the time now offering me cars, and it's like, oh, that car to buy is 30 grand, and they want to sell it to me, and I could sell it for 36. And it's like, it's mint. It's just so minimal prep, but I just haven't really got the money, to be quite honest with you, if I want as many cars as I've got. So my goal is sell as many as you can now, but then condense it down into, 30 cars that are whatever.
Yeah.
But obviously it takes time.
Yeah.
Takes time to build it.
Yeah.
And I think we all get a bit carried away. It's easy to get carried away. However many months ago you were selling Captures and Clios and whatever, and then you sell a few more expensive bits. You're like, oh, that was good. And then you just lean 100% into that. And then you've got a forecourt full of performance stuff that, it sounds like you are still selling them, so I can't knock it. And I've done it exactly as well. I've gone for more expensive stuff. I was like, I might just go like a 10 grand lower limit. But then I'll get like a little 5 grand Fiesta and it flies out the door. That's 1,500 quid in my back pocket. It was really easy. Let's rock and roll again. It's,
yeah, I mean, I have got some slightly more boring stuff in stock at the moment, but that's the stuff that's in the body shop in the garage. Like I've just bought a couple of 320 diesels and a Golf GTD, so still nice-ish stuff, but it's, more everyday stuff. But that's all the type of stuff that I sold the back end of last week that I've just replaced. It's now like in prep, getting done.
there you are. Then it tells you even more, doesn't it?
I
That's
know,
the stuff.
yeah.
sold.
Yeah, because the stuff that's still advertised is the stuff that's not sold. So, and that's all been here for a bit. So, what do you think about selling sort of quite like miley stuff? Do you try and stay under sort of 80,000 or so, or do you not mind selling something at 115 as long as it's got good history?
Yeah, just like what you said there. If it's got really good history, then sometimes I'll give it a go. You just got to go where your gut, haven't you? But as a rule, now I try not to go over 80,000 if I'm retailing anything. Like I say, unless it's an absolute mint baller, and I think Joe's the same. Joe probably gets sucked in easier than me. Now I will tend to trade on the high mileage stuff just because it just always seems to give me headaches. And then it slows your pipeline up.
I think it depends on your appetite for risk, and it's exactly what Dave's just said then. But I think what's more important than like slowing down with warranty claims and whatever is your mood. You sell higher mileage stuff, and then you deal with, let's say, higher mileage customers.
You expect more.
Yeah, well, they're stretching, aren't they? That's why they're buying a higher mileage version of what they really want, and then they maybe expect more, or you're just going to get problems, and that's not the customer's fault either. It just will happen. But if you're selling a lot of stuff like that, what I find is it would just get me down. I'm like, why is it all just what? Honestly, we sold all that stuff, and even with those margins, we weren't making enough money. So if I start selling stuff that's better, is less risky, how am I ever going to make any money? But what I would say is it all depends on your appetite for risk. I won't sell stuff now over 100,000 miles. I just won't, because I don't want the headache and I want things to flow smoothly. But would I have scaled as quickly if I hadn't? I don't think I would. So if you're really wanting to get some money in the bank, take some risk and, It's like, well, all of it's gambling, isn't it? But a lot of traders who are like me and Dave, and we don't want the high mileage stuff, we don't want the headaches, we're trying to carve as smooth a course as possible, that will avoid that stuff. So then that's where you make nice big margins. Like, look at Jamie Capel. The appetite that guy has for, I don't know, and just the scope for micromanaging everything. He's got 300 cars, and that's exactly what he buys. It's mileagey,
Yeah.
aspirational cars. It's the really nice stuff. It's the stuff that's high mileage, high owners. I don't know whether he sells write-off stuff, but that would be just bulk it into the same sort of deal. And there's really good margins in it, but there's also a lot more work and potential for problems. And it's just what's your appetite for stress as well, I think, is maybe more the point, because it'd still be that 80-20 rule.
I'm not good at that.
You're not good at stress.
Oh no.
Oh, well,
No.
don't do it then.
Well, I'm either led down or up here. I'm not very good at fluctuating. No.
Right. Simple as that then.
Yeah,
Avoid them.
Don't do it. And
Because, I mean, you'll have enough headaches as it is.
I think what Joe's saying here as well, what's a really good word, what we should all have imprinted in our head is momentum. Keeping the momentum going. So, for example, we sold an A-class on Friday, and I had to meet the chap in Berwick halfway. Like, he was coming from Glasgow, I was coming from Sheffield, so I met him halfway, and he had a Tiguan. You love it when I say that, don't you, Tiguan, Joe?
Go on. Yeah.
He had a Tiguan, and he said on the phone, like, he's just got a little scratch down the side, and that's it. And it turns out the bloody dick's making a noise. The engine management light's coming. It's got DBF issue, you know what I mean? Like, what I'm trying to say is, I wish I'd just said to him, just take it away, buy any car. Take it away, buy any car. We'll get the car delivered up to you. But now, this car is going to ruin my momentum. Because if I just had a straight deal, the money would have went in the bank. I'd be straight online now, putting all my proxy bids in, trying to get something else. But now, I'm thinking, well, if I ring the customer up, say, can I have some money back? And now it's just taking all that brain energy away from me. It's taking the momentum away from me, and I'm thinking about something completely different where I should be thinking, oh, I can put that money back into another Merc A-class, put the grill on, paint the wheels black, and let's go again. But now I'm thinking, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. So, yeah, Joe's right.
Exactly what Dave's saying. I've got a part exchange car just outside here. And it's a 2005 BMW 325i. It's an SE. It's boring or whatever, but we gave 750 quid for it, and it's cleaned up nice. Retails probably for about £3,000. So there's like great money in it. And what I used to do was let my missus part them up my bit of land, and she'd sell them from there. It still all goes through the business and whatever, but it's just not something I got to deal with. And so that way, I'd give her a few hundred quid out of it, and I'd get a bigger bite of the pie. But then you still have the warranty problems with that, because we still deal with it the same way. And you get all those sorts of problems, and then she'd be on the phone to me, and it was like a three-way thing and whatever. Whereas now I'm just like, if I send it to auction and it makes £1,000, it's still 200 quid in my back pocket after the fees and whatever, and it's gone, and it's not just blurring my mind with like, oh,
Yeah, I've started getting better with tradings. Just going either I don't want them, like I said, take it to eBay any car, do this, do that. I've actually done it with a car that's going out later on today, and the car's lovely, but I just know it won't sell. It's a 23 plate Fiesta Active X, is it? The one with the plastic wheel arches and stuff on it. I've had one before, I couldn't get it, so I've said to her, just take it somewhere else and buy my car for cash sort of thing, because she's downgrading anyway, and she's happy to do that. Whereas a year ago, I would have took it off her to make sure I got the deal. But with this one, I was like, no, I've learned over the years that you don't need to take the part exchange every time.
I think that's a big lesson for me, because I had this idea in my head, say around like after COVID and all that sort of rubbish, and I'd set up my car buying website, Cars Bought for More, and I was like, I want to be everything car related in our area. If someone wants to sell a car, they'll come to us. If they want to get it fixed, they'll come to us. If they want to buy a car, they can come to us. If they want to sell us a car that's 50 grand or something, and we probably haven't got the money for, like, I'll find a way to buy it, because I don't want to turn anyone away. And if it's some rot box for 300 quid, I'll buy it, because I want them to tell everyone that they can come to us and whatever. And my business has improved by shutting down the workshop and not offering that, just saying no to the crap, because you just get lumbered with rubbish and it's taking up your time when really it shouldn't. And just saying no to the stuff that's too expensive and whatever, and just focus. And like the stuff that we get now is so much better And it's like exactly like you say with part exchanges, it's really tempting to like try and grease the wheels of a deal and say, yeah, I'll take that, and hopefully I'll know something. You get lumbered with something.
And
That's
how
the
much
worst thing.
happier do you feel, Joe, by doing all that as well?
Don't know if I know what happiness is, Dave, to be quite honest with you, but
Well, then you
no,
can't do it.
no, I'm joking. No, it definitely is better. You know, it's just not having those headaches
Yeah.
and just cars sitting around and just thinking, why did I do that? So yeah, and just being more selective. You can't be everything to everyone. We've obviously gone for a bit of tangent. We've covered most of your questions. Well, I think we have covered everything really. You said about being too nice in the car trade and literally replacing tires for people because you felt bad. Is that on like a warranty type thing where they're
Yeah, I mean that particular one, that was again a really cheap car. Guy was obviously didn't have much to his name and needing a car, and then it had an ABS fault, which I was like, yep, no problem. I'll come round and pick it up. We only live 15, 20 minutes down the road. I was like, I'll come and grab it. And then when we got it in, my garage were like, these tires are like, how was he driving on these tires? They're knackered. So I rang him and said, mate, you need some new tires. Your tires they're not even legal. And it was a 7-seater that he'd bought, and I'd had to go and pick it up from his house, like in between school runs. And he'd also bought a 7-seater because he had the kids and stuff. And he was like, oh, well, I can't afford them. And like, I'll have to do them next month or something. And I was like, mate, you've got 6 kids in this car. Like, you can't do that. So, I mean, I didn't complete it. It's a bit of a running joke between me and the lads around here who know that I did it. I didn't actually pay for his tyres, but I did. I think I charged him for 2, and I think I put the other 2 on. And I was like, just have a set of tyres. It's not I didn't feel like we've been driving around with it in the state it was in.
yeah. So what was this? It wasn't a guy you sold a car to. It's just a
Oh no, yeah, I'd sold him the car. Yeah, I'd sold him the car. It was a cheap Vauxhall Safari.
And how long had he had it for?
It had it about 6 months, well, probably 4 months, I think it was. And it wasn't that the tyres were bald, like I'd sold it with bald tyres. Someone had let his tyres down or something, and he'd just driven it to the garage to get them to pump them up. And
got
he'd
you.
driven about
Yeah.
5 miles on flat tyres. And I was like, mate, these tyres are not.
All the side wall off.
Yeah, all the
Yeah.
sidewalls were knackered, and I was like, mate, them tyres are not safe in the slightest. You can't be doing that.
Yeah.
So
You do have to. Do you know what? I don't know what it is.
sometimes they'll say no.
I mean, I think generally, people who are in business. There's again, we're talking to Mr. Brewer. He's saying, car dealers get a bad rep, and I wonder if that's the reason why some of us are so over the top. We're trying to be nice and beyond decent with people, or whether it's just a general business owner type thing. On the whole, you want to earn a fair living and you want to be fair to people. But doing that, for example. And I've done things before. People will come back, they've bought a car, and a year later they're saying they need a battery on it and it shouldn't have, whatever, and I haven't got the money and whatever. And like Mike said, the sucker for a doe eye, someone who's just, and they just, sometimes it's just for an easier life. But there's essentially what they're doing is I'm putting my backhand in my own personal pocket and buying stuff for people left, right, and center just because I feel like, oh, I don't know, some kind of responsibility. But if you told someone a push bike off of Marketplace and they came back a year later and said, oh, me lamp on the front doesn't work, you wouldn't be like, no worries, mate, I'll give you 30 quid and just out of my pocket for no reason, and you buy yourself a new one. Why? I mean, you bought this off me a year ago. Why should you possibly have to maintain it? I don't know why we do that. Because and I've been really, really guilty of it. And it comes the same with warranties. You do have to have a bit of a hard line. You think, whatever, easier life, we'll pay for it and whatever. Even if it's something that's not covered. Say someone's clutch goes after 6 months and clearly they've been riding the hell out of it. Like, why should we have to pay for it? And I know 9 times out of 10 we're like, well, we did have a profit in that car and some of them you're going to have to do, aren't you? But when you think about it at the end of the year, if you did one of those a month, cost yourself 10 grand. It's crazy. And I think a lot of new dealers worry that they're going to get a bad reputation or they're going to get bad reviews for saying no. And I just think, God, again, you just got to take that risk. Just say no. And if they leave you a bad review, you can answer why, but you just have to. I guess the way you got to think about it is like, imagine your business pot is, you said you got a daughter, haven't you? I haven't got any
Yep.
kids, so I can't really use this in my mind. But it's your family's money. So someone turns up and they're like, yeah, well, I want this and I want that, and it's like, well, as per everything we all agreed on when we sold it, it's not included. And they're going, it's like, would you take 500 quid out of your daughter's savings and give it to this person who's giving you grief now because they might leave you a bad review or they might say you're bad.
I keep thinking I want to put some pictures of me little girl up in the office so that I can literally say, like, when people are asking for a discount, I can go, "You're taking money out of her mouth," if I basically, like, that's, like, so, because I've done it myself, like, my accountant, I signed up with my accountant because when we went to his office, there was, pictures that his kids had drawn, and my wife was like, "Oh, I like this. I like that he's like a family man and this, that, and the other." So I keep meaning to do the same sort of thing here and put some of her pictures up on the walls and stuff like that and be like, I need to make money to feed her. It's not just for me.
I know, but this is another reason why it'll be better to have more cars so you can employ a salesman. So you've just seen James come in there. So Saturday, James was in on Saturday, and I came in to do some painting or something, and then a customer come in, and if I wasn't there and James had rang, "Can this customer have 300 quid off?" I just would have said no. You know what I mean? Everything's fixed price. But because I was there, and then the customer come in and say, "Oh, I'm starting up my new business and this," and he give it the old story, and I was like, "Oh, go on, have 200 quid off, 300 quid." The money you will save by employing someone like a salesman who's gonna get you more money for the cars, and you're not gonna be a softie, because 'cause we're all the same. Joe's the same, I'm the same, Mike Brewer's the same, you know what I mean? You all think, "Oh, go on, 200 quid off here and there." If you add it all up, if you had a salesman, that'd probably pay for the salesman.
And you think we've got it bad with sob stories and stuff. I sold my mate who lent me the money, like, after it all went a bit wrong, and lent it me, like, the second time, if you will. He started selling WAVs now, the wheelchair vehicles and stuff, but selling, like, really cheap ones. It all started because he needed a car for his dad, who I think it's Parkinson's. He needed one anyway, so I let him buy one on my BCA account, and then he realised, "Hang on a minute, there might be some money on this." So he started selling WAVs on, like, on the side. But I went and dealt with he's in Australia at the minute. I went and dealt with a customer for him yesterday at his place. And this guy was going, "Oh," he's showing me a Just Giving page going, "This is how much money we've raised for it. It's from his son who's, terminally ill and he's only got 6 months." And I was like, "Oh my," like, and I spoke to my mate who's doing it, and he said, "Yeah, you think you've got it bad?" He said, "Everybody who comes to me pulls on my heartstrings." And he's like, I don't know what he's like. So yeah, there's everyone out there who's got it in different ways, but I couldn't do that for a full-time job because I'd be giving them away. I'd just be throwing them out the door going, "Free cars, just take them."
No, do you know, honestly, what I used to do in those situations, you get a feeling from someone when they're going to want to start asking for a discount or whatever. When I used to be selling to people, I would pretend like I don't own the place, like I'm not the boss. And I'd be like, "Sorry, it's not up to me. There's no way I could give you money off. I'll get in trouble with the big boss."
Yeah, yeah. But
And do you
like
know
Dave
what?
just said,
It's for you mentally as well. For you
Exactly.
there's something we're awkward with. We sit in front of someone, we're like, "No, I don't want to give you money off." And they're like, "Oh, please, we'd love this and we'd love that." And it's just you going, "No." You feel awkward about it. But if you can pretend that it's like, "Well, I'd love to give you some money off, but my boss won't allow me, and it's just
Exactly.
out of my hands,"
That's it.
then you don't feel awkward.
Exactly.
so yeah, like Dave just said, if you had a salesman, he probably wouldn't do discounts and probably make you a bit more money. I proved it to myself yesterday with this guy. He was showing me going, "I've only got this much, oh, blah, blah, blah." And I managed to squeeze like an extra 150 quid out of him for my mate's, like, wheelchair car. And then when I rang my mate afterwards and said, "Right, I've sold it, it's gone," he was like, "Oh, I would have let it go for much less." And I was like, but because it was someone else's car we're selling, I thought, "Well, I need to get the most money out of it." Whereas, again, if it was my own, I would have let it go for cheaper. So it's proved the
That's what
point,
you
yeah, like,
need to start telling people that the big boss won't allow it. Do you know what? It's exactly, with the psychology, because it's like, you know, um, like relationship advice. You give your mates relationship advice and you know it's right, but you won't do it yourself
won't do it yourself.
or whatever it is.
It's
Yeah, it's
so
just right.
true. It's so true. I knew a trade who used to have a false leg, and he used to sit behind the desk. And then when he was doing the day, or he wanted to take him for the test drive, he'd stand up and he'd go, "I've just got to go and get me false leg out the cupboard and put it on." So then the customers all felt sorry for him, and they wouldn't ask for a discount.
Yeah,
But yeah, you don't want to go losing your leg. Sod that.
whatever it takes. Yeah. Right. Well, we're knocking on for a little while now. So, is there anything else you want to ask us before we sort of knock it on the head? I know we've just had a bit of a rambling, but that's the best thing about these. I think is just sometimes having a bit of a a ramble with like-minded car dealers?
No, I don't know. Like, seriously, yeah. So I need to buy more cars, take someone on, yeah, sell more cars.
I mean, it's your choice. It's your choice. Either you buy more lower value cars and take someone on, or you get your overheads down and you slim it down into a more streamlined thing, or whatever. I mean, this is just a batting around some ideas, so you can do whatever it is you want. But it seems like you probably do want to expand, so make the most of the money you've got. Get someone in to help you, the right person, and yeah, maybe we'll catch up in 6 months and see how many 63s you can fit in your showroom.
Yeah, that's the thing. My unit here, my lease is up in 12 months, so I might start looking for something smaller. But because I had the last business in here as well, obviously it's all kitted out, it's all well lit, flooring, it's all like,
Yeah.
and I've kind of, I don't know, I'm kind of attached to the place because I've been here so long, even though it does cost a lot.
Try not get sucked in by all that. Like, oh, I forgot the chap we had on, Joe, who does it out at the farm. Yeah, the farm band thing. Martin, that was it. You know, he had a great setup, and I'm pretty sure his rent was a lot cheaper than yours, and you could get a lot more cars in. So just get out there, try and find somewhere a bit cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, all that said, make the next 12 months while you've got your lease, your goal is to make that overheads look cheap for what you can sell from there. But again, eventually, at the end of the day, it's space, isn't it? How many cars you can get in there for how much you're paying.
Yeah, and like I say, for what I pay here, I can't get. I mean, I can get a lot of cars in. Obviously, do inside. That's why it's so sort of expensive. But I've got friends down the road who've got like 100-car pitches that are paying less money than me, but they're obviously just a pitch and reporter cabin.
That's where you make money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, them lads make money.
Did you see that on Trade to Trade, Joe? It came up in Newcastle. There was a pitch. It can fit like, it's like 200 cars on it or something. It was just like a gravel pitch. And it was, don't quote me, I'm pretty sure it was $2,000 a month. And you could get like it was 2.5 grand. It was in the twos, you know. They are out there, you know. You've just got to find them.
Yeah, there we are. Right. So, where can everyone find you, Nick?
Just prideandperformance.co.uk on the website. Obviously, we've got Instagram, Facebook, all that sort of stuff. Everything's just Pride and Performance. Yeah, and we're in Preston, Lancashire, just off the M6.
Brilliant. I'll put all that stuff in the description, and hopefully we will catch up soon.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah. Thanks very much, guys.
All the best, Nick.